comply with the notice provisions of the Sunshine Law by adopting prior to January 10th of this year a resolution prescribing the dates, times, and locations of all regular meetings of the Commission. This meeting is one of the meetings listed in such resolution, and copies of the resolution were, prior to January 10th, filed with the Borough Clerk. You're going to please be patient with us a little bit. Going to be a little slower than usual this evening. Holly, our clerk, is unable to be with us tonight. So we lead off with the reports of the municipal court and zoning official.
Make a motion to accept those reports.
Second.
The first order on our agenda is the second reading of public hearing on ordinance 1788, an amendment to chapter 141 of the Code of the Borough of Collingswood in reference to 900 Hatton Avenue. This ordinance is revisions to the redevelopment plan that governs 900 Hatton in order to allow some additional specific uses. It was prepared as a result of our borough planner's review of the last year of planning board applications for use variances. And those use variances that had been the most frequently applied for that were granted, we've simply made amendment to allow those uses. And it's got to do with like education facility, it's private education facility, but more office oriented, but didn't fit directly in the prior definition, so we've expanded it and allowed that to happen here. Purpose being so that everyone that's coming into the building doing a similar use doesn't have to keep spending the money and coming in to get a use variance when we're granting them all anyway. So we just revised it. That's what this revision is. So any member, this is the public hearing on this ordinance. Any member of the public like to speak on this ordinance? Now is your time. Anyone? Okay. I guess I call it all. Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewandowski?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, next up is the second reading public hearing of ordinance 1789 establishing cannabis licensing. So the process of cannabis in the borough is we have allowed it under zoning. We have set it up as a redevelopment process. There are redevelopment agreements in place for one of the cannabis operators, for two cannabis operators. The construction's underway and what was on Route 130, what was the old Egbert Express. It's a building kind of right next to the Fortuna Dance Studio. Construction's well underway there. The other property has not moved as far, which is the Collingswood Diner. What this ordinance does is establish a pretty elaborate licensing process that puts kind of the way my analogy is the old days when we licensed taxis, taxi cab companies that have to submit information to be vetted and every year have to be reviewed so that we get a review that the operation is not causing any kind of issues with the community, with the neighborhood, that they're operating properly. So this is what this cannabis licensing ordinance does. If anyone has anything they'd like to bring before the commission, this is your opportunity to do so. Anyone?
I'll just add in case someone's thinking of another question. This is for municipal licenses, so they still have to go through the state process of the 6 different categories of licensing and all that stuff. This is sort of just for the municipal level.
Okay, any public comment, anyone else? Okay, Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewandowski?
Yes.
And I am a yes vote as well. Okay, next is public comment on any of the resolutions on the,
You got, looks like an older copy.
I'm sorry?
We're missing the, PK ordinance by title. No?
I'm going off the agenda that has my name on
I
it.
agree. I think the packet that I dropped off has. This one by title.
Okay, so this is a first reading of ordinance 1790, amending chapter 24 of the municipal code of the borough regarding the energy aggregation program. So we'll have the final version of this in the next couple days. It'll be advertised appropriately. This is making a few changes to the energy aggregation ordinance that we had, which is a process that allows the borough to go out and purchase power wholesale for residential use, and then allows residential customers to opt out of that if they so choose. It's been a few years since this state's law came in place, and so we're making a few changes based on the recommendations of our consultant and based on their experience in other towns that have done it. It's basically kind of changing the requirements for green power, kind of reducing that, because the market, we keep it up the level where it's at, the marketplace isn't gonna make any proposals to us, so we're just dropping it down a little bit in accord with some other towns. This is the first reading. Public hearing will be at our meeting on November 4. It'll be advertised within the next couple weeks. Okay, it's just a voice vote. Commissioner Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Lewandowski?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, public comment on the resolution. So this is a public comment period only on the rest of our agenda. If you have any comments, questions on any of the items listed on the agenda, this is your opportunity to bring it before us. If not, if you have anything generically you want to talk about or any other issue, we'll do all that at the end of the meeting. Anybody? Yes? Name and address for the record, please.
Wayne Rossi, 114 East Palmer Ave. So as you well remember, the energy aggregation ordinance, the goal was to set some renewable targets and to try and move Collingswood toward what we would hope would be 100% renewable energy. And, you know, we haven't seen motion on that, you know, obviously. So can you tell us, are there still renewable energy targets? Are we still going to see a substantial portion of green energy through this? Because this was why a lot of us were involved in pushing for this.
Yeah, the sad thing is, right, is when it's those targets that stopped us from being able to enact it, because the costs were above the tariff rate, were above what people would pay ordinarily for the stuff. The goal, and listen, made this argument at that time, is that, you know, these markets are fluid, they change, we don't know what they'll do year to year, we have to have the flexibility. Now, you know, people went to, you know, to petition the government and, you know, said, look, we want fixed numbers in there. Those fixed numbers would stop us from, so we got grand ideas and we got zero out of it. I think the idea what we want to do now is say, we want to get something out of this. We want to make sure we get it. And if that's 20%, you know, above the standard amount now, which is what, 24% in New Jersey, or you know, or it's 30%, or it's 5%, or it's 50%, we have to work with the market. So the consultants who do this in a lot of other towns, including New Brunswick, including a lot of other places, are the ones that said to us, look, we've got to have that flexibility. So that's what we're going to try.
Okay, so but there will still be renewable energy, like, as a focus of this?
It's you only do it. I mean, that's the reason why we're doing it.
Okay.
Anyone else? Yes?
Yeah, Kate Delaney, also Palmer Avenue, 126 East Palmer Avenue. So yeah, Rob, you just threw out a couple different numbers, 30%, 50%. I would, you know, argue that it wasn't necessarily the renewable goals that were alone the issue, but also the war in Ukraine. But yeah, I would like more specifics in terms of the numbers. I know that the public hearing is next month, but by then it's pretty far out of the gate. So if you could give us some more numbers, and yeah, just want to give props to my neighbor Wayne for bringing this up.
Yeah. I think we can set a number of 100% now, and everyone will walk away happy, and we'll get zero out of it, because that's what we got for 4 years, right? So the idea here is, let's let the consultants look at the market at that moment and not lock into something in our ordinance that is cost us the opportunity to improve our mix and bring this out to the public. So I get it. I just think what you have to do is allow the process to go through and then see what's achievable. The idea of saying, you know, this is this is desirable, but if it's not achievable, it doesn't matter. So we wanna try to find that balance. So thank you, by the way.
The specific difference in the ordinance is this: the ordinance as it exists is, said that it set minimum renewable requirements, and that they would increase by 10% each year. We've talked about in other meetings over the last 4 or 5 years that we've been advised that by the consultants that it's not achievable. We can't go out and get anyone to offer that, okay? So the language from a couple other towns says the purchase must be 10% higher than the New Jersey Renewable Portfolio Standard, which is part of the tariff. So that what that tariff sets, from PSE&G, you have options today to go buy some renewable. Most people don't do it because it costs a lot more money, okay? But our option would be, it must be at least 10% higher than what you could just get regular on your portfolio, and there must be at least a 5% savings to the resident, unless they choose to opt into 100% renewable, and then there won't be any savings. They go. So it's making a little bit of modification. It's based on the consultant's advice that this is something that they believe the marketplace will bid on. Okay. All right. Anything else? Okay. I can do Holly's roll. First resolution is appointing William Lyons as the Deputy Police Chief for the Borough of Collingswood Police Department.
Yes.
Okay. So we're going to take a moment and do a swearing in. No. We're gonna get you separate pictures. I state your name.
I, William Lyons,
Do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
that I will bear true faith and allegiance to the same
bear true faith, allegiance to the same,
and to the governments
and to the governments
established in the United States
established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties as Deputy Chief for the Borough of Collingswood Police Department. You can get all that.
all the duties of the Deputy Chief of the Collingswood Police Department,
According to the best of my ability.
according to the best of my ability.
So,
So help me God.
congratulations. Billy's homegrown Collingswood. Thanks, Billy. Thank you for officers and friends that have come out this evening. We appreciate you being here. You are free to leave now if you would like. I just would ask that you be quiet so that we can keep running through the agenda, the meeting, okay? And Mrs. Lyons, you need to lose that video.
Still here.
All right, next up is a resolution approving a settlement agreement with USA Architects. This is a resolution, this is a settlement out of the construction of the public safety building. There was some litigation with our architects about some errors we think there were, some mistakes we think there were. This is a resolution of the lawsuit, a settlement of the lawsuit. We recovered roughly 50–60% of our number. That was our claim, and this puts that to rest.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. Next is a resolution authorizing entering into cooperative pricing agreement with Cherry Hill Township. Cassandra, remind me on what?
I'm not sure, it could be a number of items.
It's a cooperative pricing system.
Yeah, just
Yeah,
So
it's
it's
just,
like
it's a
pricing
shared
on-
service, we're
yeah.
going to get pricing with Cherry Hill
Yep.
on an item.
And they're taking the,
Yes.
yes.
Authorizing a purchase under state contract for turnout gear for the fire department. Yes.
Yes.
Authorizing the termination of participation in the state health benefits program effective the end of this year. We are authorizing this evening, and authorizing going into what's referred to as the New Jersey Health Insurance Fund, which is a self-insurance pool of towns in in Camden County throughout the state, but this is for Camden County. We're making final decisions, working out with our employees, and looking at making that change. It's really being done as a cost savings measure, significant change in the costs. We're finishing up some review to make sure that the coverages are equivalent for all of our employees, most especially those of our employees who right now are ill. We want to make sure that everything for everybody is covered. So that's what we're authorizing with these next two resolutions.
Yes.
Yes. Authorizing to participate in the Southern New Jersey Health Insurance Fund? Yes.
Yes.
Appointing Betty Jo Pigliacelli as Fund Commissioner to the Southern New Jersey Health Insurance Fund, related to that self-insurance pool? Yes.
Yes.
Authorizing to advertise the bid for a DVRPC top grant project for Atlantic and Collins Avenue. This is applying to get free money. Yes.
Yes.
Appointing a redeveloper and authorizing a redevelopment agreement for the property located at 30 Fern. This is the church, right?
There's already the church, right?
Yeah, so this is for the Presbyterian Church at Fern and Maple, which we have talked about a bunch in the past, and has gotten site plan approval. We finished up the last details of our redevelopment agreement with them. There are gonna be 30 residential units in that property, 4 of which will be affordable units, deed restricted affordable units. We're really anxious to get this started, and I think they're kind of clear to get rolling. Yes.
Yes.
Authorizing a sale of property located at 627 Haddon Avenue. This is Ocean First Bank. So, sorry about that, folks. This is the Sun Bank, the Ocean First Bank is property that the borough acquired near the end of last year. And we've been working through a few different plans on it. One of the plans, some of the plans have had townhouses on the back parking lot. And my goodness, the first developers wanted to put like 6 stories on where the bank is, across the street from the lumber yard. We really did not think that was in any way appropriate for the neighborhood. What's okay on this side of Haddon with a train behind it, not quite the same as across the street where we have, you're really in a residential neighborhood. So we had a proposal from a developer in Philadelphia, really good track record. We really liked his experience in it. Their proposal, what we've done is limit it to simply kind of the front parcel. They submitted a proposal to build a 2-story, put a 2nd story on top of the existing bank building. And I don't know if you can see it. You're welcome to take a look after we're all done. But there's kind of the proposal is to build it kind of like the Hearthside building is, where the main part of the building is back a little bit. So those posts, kind of the columns on the outside here, would actually be the support structure for the 2nd floor. So in essence, they're gonna take a 2nd floor and kind of put it over top of the 1st floor. There'll be 9 residential units up top, 9 2-bedroom units up top. And then the back portion of the parking of the Ocean First building we're gonna keep it parking. It's gonna become public parking. We'll have kiosks back there. We'll do the public parking route because while it's certainly attractive to get the ratables in with the residential, we really think that what's needed is, while we're looking at doing it back here at the water towers, increasing that public parking, this gives us a chance to get some public parking down kind of this side of the neighborhood, okay?
And plus at the Warner lot, we need 7 parking spaces to put a public park there. So in some ways, this will take care of that as well.
Yes. Okay, all right, yes.
Yes.
Authorizing a shared service agreement with the county of Camden for deer carcass removal. It's pretty
Yes.
self-explanatory, yes. This is our discussion of best practices. State has a rule that in order to get your maximum state funding every year, you need to have a moment when the governing body talks about their best practices list. Tonight's the night.
Yeah, so the Department of Community Affairs requires this, and they put together essentially a checklist. You have to score at least 35 out of, I think it's 49 points to get it. We scored 45, so we're well above the score needed. It covers such things as cybersecurity, budget, affordable housing, environment, ethics. Kudos really to the staff. Really Cass, all the department heads, Betty Jo, who day in and day out, make sure that we, administer our funds and our duties in a way that meets these standards. So, yeah, I feel positive about what we've seen, and they throw new things in every year, and we'll be ready for them when they come. So.
Okay, thank you. Last on the agenda is approving the payments of bills as presented by the treasurer.
Yes.
Cassandra, anything else? Did I didn't miss anything?
No.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Robinson?
Couple of things. I'd like to thank everybody for their hard work at the Book Festival. Another big success. It didn't rain. Amazing. On Saturday, on the 12th, this Saturday, we have our fire engine housing ceremony to welcome our new fire engine. And that is at what time, Chief?
11 a.m.
11 o'clock. And on Sunday, the Pride Committee presents our Outfest. It's a family-friendly, education-based, from 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. at Perkins, to celebrate LGBTQ History Month.
Okay, thanks, Commissioner Lewandowski.
I'm good, thanks.
We're good, okay. We know there's some folks, because they've already told us, they have some things they want to talk about here tonight. So, I will forego any comment as well. Let's go right to the public portion. Anyone like to bring anything before the commission? This is your opportunity to do so. Yep, please. Just name and address for the record, please.
Sure. Bridget Bercione, 122 Fern Avenue.
Steve Spacey, 439 Advent.
So we're going to read a little statement. Since last spring, when we learned that the Collingswood Public Schools were losing state funding, we began researching as much as we could about school funding, our local tax levy, school and municipal budgets, and state funding formulas, seeking to fully understand the big picture of our school funding situation. We're here tonight to share our research with the community and to start a conversation about how we can better fund our district without additional costs to taxpayers. We've shared some of this with the commissioners already and readily accepted their offer to meet with us to talk more in detail. We also recognize the importance of having these conversations publicly and often so people in leadership positions are fully aware of the wants and needs of their constituents, which is why we're here tonight. What we found is this. In New Jersey, during the 2023 tax year, an average of just over 52% of property taxes collected went to school districts. Surrounding communities like Haddon Township, Haddonfield, Audubon, Haddon Heights all met or exceeded that average. In Collingswood, our schools received just under 47% of property tax revenue during the same year. That 5% difference amounts to a little over $2 million, and this isn't a one-time deficit. In the past 20 years, Collingswood has contributed just under 47% of the tax levy to our schools, continually below the state average. Millions of dollars that we could have used to support teacher retention and academic program development. We've also found that the New Jersey school funding formula anticipates that our local tax levy, based on property values and total income, should be around $24 million this year. We are well below that at around $19 million. In fact, we have one of the largest gaps between the expected and actual contributions from the local tax levy compared to surrounding Based on the 2023 municipal budget, pilots brought in about an additional $2.8 million to the borough, with only about $222,000 or 8% being sent to the school district. Again, this isn't an isolated event, but a consistent pattern of funds being collected without significant percentage going to the school district. We're not disputing how the current process works. It's clear that the district informs the borough of the local tax share that they're legally entitled to, and the borough provides it. We also recognize the substantial growth and development of Collingswood in the past 30 years, much of which would not have been possible without the utilization of pilots. Our goal in sharing these facts is to advocate for a permanent and sustainable increase to school funding without raising taxes for residents. With flat or decreased state funding and a state-mandated tax cap, we see local funding as the most attainable way to get much-needed funds into the school operating budget. As concerned taxpayers and parents of children in our public schools, we want a higher percentage of our local tax dollars going to the place that needs our support most, the schools. Establishing clear and sustainable local support for the school operating budget will hopefully allow them to negotiate a generous contract to the dedicated and deserving teachers and staff at our school. We're proposing 2 solutions for your consideration to ultimately bring the total tax revenue sent to schools up to 52% or higher, like the New Jersey state average. 1, for the borough to increase the total percentage of the collected tax levy sent to the school district by reallocating money in the municipal budget. And secondly, to create a formal agreement with the school district, moving a majority share of current and or future pilot payments directly to the school operating budget. We know this can't be accomplished overnight, and that there are considerations to the borough operating budget that need to be carefully explored. However, we strongly believe that more of our tax dollars should be going directly to the schools, and implore you to work with the district to make this happen. Thank you for your time and your willingness to listen. We hope these conversations this week are the start of a collaborative movement between residents, the borough, and the district to improve our schools. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Nope, that's it.
Just moral support. So can we, Lindsay, can you put, so they sent us this, most of this in advance. So Lindsay, can you put the, or no, because you're working off the page. So I just want to talk about this because it kind of rolls back to, like, I think there's a basic misconception, okay? The misconception is that somehow the borough, we decide what part of the tax levy goes to the schools, okay? That's just not how it works. And in a nutshell, the borough's budget, we have the same cap levy, we have the same cap. And if there was a requirement, if it was proposed, which I don't know anywhere, any town, anywhere in the state that is in the municipal budget, they have a line item of what they're sending over to the schools to support the schools, okay? Other than a pilot payment, which we'll take a look at that, okay? But it's not just, our budget is such, we don't have funds, we don't budget for, we don't work on what money we're going to send, we can send to the schools, and we're right under our cap. So your proposal that we give them something headed toward $2 million to make up that funding gap, we could do. It would exceed our cap, okay? We can exceed our cap if we go out to referendum for the public to approve it, okay? That is exactly what the school district can do, okay? Which, as far back as July, when we sent our letter with our Good Shepherd proposal, part of why we made that proposal was to give, we said in our letter, to give time for a look at whether to do an operating budget referendum, and a look at other doing more planning. We laid that all out, okay? So it could be done, but it's not the kind, like, we're not sitting on a pot of $2 million that we can just say, oh, let's help support the schools. Our budget is tied to everything that we're responsible for, that we do, okay? That increase, we could absolutely do, like all the references you made about the local tax, the local levy, that's not referring to the municipal government, it's referring to you. It's just saying that you can be taxed more, okay? So the borough can do this. We just would have to go out on a referendum, raise the money, give it to the schools. What we think, and the way the law's set up is more appropriate, is the school district, who controls that budget, needs to go out on a referendum to go above the cap, which, at least as I understand it, early on in the referendum process, the position of the administration was, we can't do that. And then by the end of it, the position was, well, we can do that, but it would cost you a lot of money, okay? And what it would cost you is the same whether the school board goes out to pass the referendum, we go out to pass the referendum. Like, we think it should be done. We advocated for it in our letter back in July. We said you should hold off on this capital expenditure and do a review about an operating, okay? So, hang on one second, all right? So, and look, can you go to the second page, Lynn? Second page, okay. And I just want to show you how this gets applied. This is the 24 tax levy, okay? School portion, 19,530,638. That's the budget they put together. They calculate out their state aid. They do all that, okay? And then go back to the first page. And so, you can't really see it clearly, but the number, the 19,753,138, the first highlighted number there, the number below it is the pilot payment that gets made to the schools on Parkview, okay? So the pilot revenue comes off the budget number. The bottom number, the 19,530,638, that levy, that's the net levy. Go to the second page, please, Cass. That's the number that we get that says this is what to tax everybody. Okay? So the pilot payment that goes in is netted out. I think there's this perception that, like, it gets grossed up. Okay? It's netted out. Okay? And that's why when we sold the Parkview in 06, and I don't know if everybody was around for that, when we sold the Parkview in 06, the borough made, we spent $6 million, we made like $4 million bucks, okay? We took half of it, close to 2/3, and gave it back to everybody. We did checks, sent checks back to everybody, all the taxpayers. The remaining third, we gave to the schools, but we didn't write them a check. And the reason we didn't write them a check is because of that, okay? If you wrote them a check, it affects their state aid, it comes off their number, okay, their budget number. So what do? Sat down with, I think Oswald was there then, Oswald, I think the president was Jimmy Hatzel. We sat down, said, look, we want to give you this money. It was close to $1 million. We want to give you this money, but we want to do it by buying stuff and putting it in, okay? That was extra money. It was new money, one-time money, not something you don't want to set it up that it's paying salaries, okay? Because it ain't coming next year. So that one-time money, we took and we outfitted the TV studio that the middle school, high school has. We bought, at the time, the hot thing was the Microsoft smart boards. Like, so we bought a bunch of those. We bought stuff, all right? Cash and prizes, I refer to it. But we bought stuff for them so they had stuff, but it was done in a way that didn't affect their state aid, didn't affect their budget number, okay? So I am more, like, this conversation, happy to have it all day. I think it's really important that school administration's part of that conversation. No one in all my time, there's never been this conversation with the schools. Like, happy to have it. For all those, I've seen a little bit of social media, how I never wanna fund the schools and never help the schools and all that stuff. '06, yeah, we sat down and found out a way to benefit them, the way that benefits them the most, okay? Happy to do that again. I have ideas and things we could do now, but that's kinda, I think I get where you're coming from, but what we can do, schools can do the same thing. And they're in a better place to control their budget and go out and say, hey, we need to pay the teachers more, we're gonna raise the taxes more.
I think the one thing I just want to add to that is for the state formula that determines equalization aid, they have a very high expected local cost share in comparison to what is financially possible through our tax levy. And I think that is what we are actually worried about, because if we even raise the school tax cap up to 2%, that would take 24 years to cover $5 to $6 million gap, and that's obviously unrealistic. So.
But no, the ideas go above the cap. What those numbers are talking about is saying, everybody, listen, when we get done the rebound, that state aid thing is gonna say, this town can support a ton more money, okay? Because it's all just a formula off what the total assessments are in the town. So we're gonna go through a process now where assessments are probably gonna be near double what they are overall for the whole town. So, I hear you, but that's like, I'm happy to help with the state in terms of what we can do to lobby to get changes there. I mean, that's enough that's screwed up and all that. But like, as far as local, fixing it locally, like, it's really, we're happy to help to be involved in it, but it's, like, it's not, like, I don't know, it makes no sense for us to be doing a referendum to raise taxes to give to the school district.
It does sound
They can do it.
Sure, and we understand that. I
Okay.
think we're looking at methods without raising taxes, and it does sound like it is feasible without a referendum that more of the incoming tax money from pilots could, in theory, go to schools without.
So that's why a few years ago we said, if we're doing any more pilots, okay, which we've done one in the last 5 years with 900 HAD, if we do any more pilots, we will take a substantial portion of that and dedicate it to athletic fields. We talked with the school board about that. I don't know if same super was here, it might have been, was it? Talked with them, went over it, here's the plan. Great, good, terrific. And the money from 900, we have kind of portioned it off and held. So yes, we're in, that's why we announced doing that. If water tower ever goes, be the same idea. Yes, with you.
What percentage of those pilots are going towards the school? When you talk about putting a substantial amount of that money, what does that look like? Like, for example, 900 had and how much money is put aside?
It would be for, I think 100.
80%, I think, of the,
Okay.
what we did in 82.
Yeah,
I believe.
well, what's the gross dollar number?
I don't think it's a huge amount.
Yeah, it's not a
This is
huge
like-
number. It's
Not
not a huge
even though
number.
it's 6 figures for the first year.
No pilot we do again is gonna be the size of what, like when we did Parkview,
Right.
okay? 100, because Parkview, we cut like a crazy deal because
Yeah.
we had to. It was like the end of the world. We had to.
I think our intention is that it's not meant to vilify anyone or to point fingers at that, because I don't think that would really get us anywhere. I really do think that we're at a very interesting time where the state will not come save the day. And I don't know of other revenue sources that the district could potentially tap into. And I don't want you to think that we're saying just simply move money out of the municipal budget into the school district budget, because that in theory is probably not feasible. But it does feel like maybe conversation kind of got lost along the way, and it maybe just needs to be revamped in some capacity, because I do think everyone, no matter what side you're on in a variety of topics, I really do think everyone can agree we do need to bring more money into the district. We do need to fairly fund teacher salaries, et cetera, et cetera. No one would disagree with that, so.
And if I can.
We advocated that in July
Right.
And
to the board.
just
Go ahead.
mention, because the Parkview pilot, right, these don't last forever. Parkview pilot, and this will connect to the top number there, right? It's gonna end in several years.
A few
Not
years,
exactly. 1 year?
handful of years.
Just a few.
Yeah, less than
Just a
5.
few years. So at which point, the money gets split 3 ways. county, municipality. So that will not, if that number was stayed the same, it wouldn't change anything. That's still stable. It would just be, if you went to the next page, that supporting where it's 225 would then be 225 plus X, right? So if we need more, right, if the pie needs to be bigger, forget about who gets how big of a slice, if it needs to be bigger, it's kind of has, I mean, I feel like, and I served on the school board, I feel like they should do it, and I would support it, because, I mean, we should have a partnership to make sure we're good stewards with the money, that we're mindful of things, but ultimately, you know, to get a bigger pie, it rests there, and then when things, like I said, Part 2 is going to come off, that doesn't necessarily change everything, everything's wonderful, they have all this new money. No, it just means the rest of the money will be encumbered upon us in a different formula. The other thing I'd say, and I don't quite have an answer to this, maybe smarter people too, is resources have always been a problem in this town. And I sent 3 kids to these schools. I love these schools. I'm so grateful for what these schools did for my kid. I've had high achieving students that I had to do nothing for, and I take all credit for their achievements. I have ones that had IEPs and that academics were difficult, and the level of service that they received through special education and stuff was fantastic. And a child who's sort of in between. And I'm really grateful, but it was never about resources. It was really about resourcefulness. And I feel like it's one thing Collingswood has always done well, and maybe we're not doing it so well right now. And that's like, how do we, you know, we can look at this and say, this is a budgetary problem, and it's just that. But to me, it's an academic achievement problem. And it's a school culture. It's, you know, there's dispirited students at the high school level, right? They're not happy being there. They're feeling, you know, devalued. There's teachers feeling that same way. There's parents who are anxious. There's members of the community, senior citizens that are anxious. We're all there. And I feel like we have a lot of smart people here. And, you know, I don't have the answers, but I do think there could be ways that we could create things that are special, things that are meaningful, that there could be public, private, municipal, school district partnerships to do everything from, John Kilgannon and I, a few years ago, 10 years ago,
College prep.
you know, did a whole bunch of stuff on college prep, and they ran an SAT prep. We did some other things, teaching, helping students how to fill out applications and write essays and all these things. And it was really just a few people rolling up their sleeves. I feel like we have more of those people now, and who are willing and able to bring a talent, to bring the resources of caring, of their experience, of their knowledge, and that resources will get us so far, but I think resourcefulness can't be taken off the table. And I'm not saying you're saying that, I know you know that, but I feel as a public servant, I need to sort of put that charge out there. People can hold me accountable to it and say, we also need to be thinking about that. How do we develop these, you know, ideas and partnerships and ways to improve student achievement, student, you know, and their experience?
Was that anything? Good?
No, still listening.
Okay, all right. Okay, we'll bounce around. Yep.
Just a quick question, Jamie Heard,
Yep.
330 Lakeview Drive.
Thank you.
I appreciate the explanation, but when I saw those numbers, it was eye-opening to me, and this goes back 20 years, probably longer. We always seem to be underfunded at the school level. So my question is, how did we get to that place where we're always at this 47% mark, and the average is 52, 53%? What was the impetus for that? And obviously, the referendum is way out, but why are we always funding resources compared to other schools?
Okay,
Is it
first off, we know
referendums that have been voted down over the years?
No, it's got nothing to do with referendums. They're only capital. That's only capital. It's to build stuff. That's all. Nothing to do with operating.
They used to do your budget, you know,
Yeah, we would vote on
10
it.
years ago, 15 years ago.
But let me just first say this. We don't run the schools.
Okay.
Okay? So I have a hard time explaining to you why they ain't got no money. Okay? I don't do that.
I'll give you
That's not what we do.
$100.
But listen,
47.53.
yeah, no, the answer, I think you're all saying the answer, which is there needs to be more money in the budget.
So,
okay? And it's,
They
and
need
it-
to
they
ask us
can't
for more
go,
money,
no, they need
right?
to just go out to ask the
Right.
taxpayers
No, that's
to
what I meant.
raise the budget.
Yeah.
Yeah, raise the budget. I think, and listen, we have had this discussion, it was pretty quick in July, but like, shouldn't we, you know, when there were other focuses, but shouldn't we be having the conversation about how do we fix this? How do we go out on a referendum to fix that, as you've talked about here before, that structural deficit?
Right.
And it arises because, think of home, if you increase by 2% only a year, and your health costs, your salaries are going up 3, 4, 5, at some point, you're done.
You're no longer cutting fat, you're cutting meat, right?
Yeah.
You're cutting muscle.
So that's,
It gets us at 2753, that's where you're losing.
look, listen, that, to me, that ratio number, doesn't mean anything, okay? Because we can cut the municipal budget tomorrow in half, okay? If we cut the municipal budget in half on, go back one, on that number, the municipal budget is 12. So if we make it 6, okay, that ratio of what the town supports the schools with goes up to 65%. And the schools get not one more penny.
Well, that's
So
what I
forget,
said. I didn't
yeah,
say that.
but that's the ratio. That's that ratio that you're worried about. That ratio doesn't mean anything. The ratio, what matters is the 19,530 ain't enough to do everything they want to do in the schools. They need more money.
I hear you.
That's what they said.
I'm still struggling to understand if it's been an issue for 20 years, and they're always underfunded, and you're telling me.
I don't know that it's been an issue for 20
Well,
years.
that's what
Well, I-
we're an outlier, right? In Camden County, we're an outlier as far as percentage of what the town pays, what the school gets back. And so.
Okay, when you say to what the taxpayers pay.
Yes. yes,
Okay,
taxpayers
all right,
pay.
yes.
So if it's been that way, and the taxpayers are always paying this number, and the schools are getting this percentage, that's less than other towns. Again, I'm just trying to understand, where, the only way to get there is to referendum, was there a low ask that was there 20 years ago that?
I don't know, honest to God, we don't do the school budget,
And-
I don't
and
know.
I don't have all the answers, and I'm gonna give you an example, and Bridget and Stephen, we communicated this on email, so I was just messing around, looking at numbers, cause that's what I do, right? And, you know, I was looking at the cost per pupil, and I said, oh, we're gonna be so much lower than all these other schools, and yet, it really wasn't. And I don't yet know, like, why that is, so if we looked at that, we're like, kind of like around the middle of, you know, all the schools.
I mean, I can tell you that's probably because of the state aid we get for students. The per pupil cost includes things like students who are economically disadvantaged, and there's Title I funds. For students with disabilities, the way that the state formula works is that every student is weighted a certain percentage.
Right.
And we get more aid, and so that is most likely because of the economic diversity in our schools
Yeah.
versus a township like Haddon Township would be my guess on why that number is more to the middle, even though we are getting less funds from the town.
To me, it's a simple equation. If 19.5 is not enough to keep all the teachers, to pay the teachers what what they feel they should, to run the school, to do it properly, if it's not enough, like if they're handling the finances right, and it's not enough, then you need to get more, okay? And I get asking us for more, but they have the same route to get more. Same route. And we wanted to talk about that a couple months ago. And there didn't seem to be any interest in it, okay? In fact, it's not that it didn't seem, they said no. Yes?
Question,
Name and address, please, just for the
Oh,
record.
sorry, Rebecca
Keep-
Finkel,
Just keep
916
it Holly, just keep it
Park
Holly.
Does
Okay,
it-
we'll get you.
Doesn't the state determine what, number, how much funding the schools need to, run adequately per year? There is a number determined by the state. So, I mean, and that 19 is well underneath it.
I don't think they require,
So it's
they
not
doesn't
a
matter-
require anything, they
the-
just give what they wanna give.
The adequacy fund?
Yeah.
Like, they're not saying, hey, this is the number we think you should spend, you have to spend that number,
Well-
because clearly they don't, because that's what we spend.
You're out of my bailiwick. I don't do the school budget,
They do.
haven't done it, never
They do.
done
I mean,
it.
so we can't accuse them of not not budgeting properly because they are getting significantly less than what the state has determined they need to run. And they also determine, and please fact check me, Stephen Bridget, how much it would be appropriate for the town to contribute. And there is a very significant gap.
When you say town,
No.
you don't mean municipal government. You mean taxpayers.
Exactly.
Okay?
We're not disputing that
There-
as taxpayers, so.
I know, so, well, I know, let me just tell you,
Well,
a lot
tax up
of
here for that.
a lot of the world out there that has said wonderful things, okay, like, they think it's municipal government, okay?
That's
So
not-
it's taxpayers. So if it's taxpayers aren't paying enough, they're paying what they're asked to pay. Nothing more. So the question, you have to ask them, you have
I
to
feel like
ask.
that's an important point, the school
Yeah.
is legally capped,
They're capped.
they
They can't ask
cannot
for any
ask.
They
for more.
can.
By
You- you-
Well, I'm not
you-
gonna recommend it now.
They,
Yeah.
and it's the
Yeah,
fact that
but
they
they
didn't
can-
over, since Chris Christie, right? That's kind of, when you say, Jamie, how did we get here? And, you know, I think it's the slow bleed, right? Of, all right, we have a 3% budget increase and we're raising revenues too. 3, 4, 1 year, 2. And when you never go to sort of make it a sustainable number, the one that connects to your expenses, you end up with, instead of a small hole, small deficit, a big one. And that requires some hard decisions. And, you know, we should
Hey,
have the
hey,
conversation.
well, get
with
some
the
other
community.
voices. Yes, sir.
Paul Ross, Basic Project. A couple questions. You keep saying that we have to go out and ask the taxpayers to do more, yet other towns around us have a greater percentage of money going to school districts. If it's not you that are deciding, which I'm not suggesting it is, who is determining that percentage? And why is it that our neighboring towns are contributing more to the schools? I'm not blaming it on you.
I'm not
It's a good
saying you
It's a good
are.
question, it's a good question.
I'm not saying you are.
Who, like, we're dancing around this question of 57 or 47, 52.
So-
How do we get that number up?
So it's a good question, I just wanna say, right, so when we talk about going to referendum when you have to exceed 2%, right, it's a state law.
I'm not
It's,
asking-
you only have to
I'm
do
not
it,
asking
you only have to do it
for-
once.
I'm asking how we change the percentage of money that goes to the school district, county, and borough.
Right, so, but that's what I'm saying, if you need to exceed that cap, you only have to go, you don't have to go, if you get it to the right place, and then you can go 2% a year, you only have to do it once. So I don't know about other towns, cause I haven't been asked to look at it, it's not, I don't run schools there, but ultimately, maybe they did it at some point, maybe they just always have had a healthy, you know, their budget. I can't answer.
Just please wait, this is the last thing I'm gonna try to ask, because
Yeah.
I'm saying keep 19 the same. I'm not saying raise taxes, I'm saying we're not going up 2%. Explain to me how Haddonfield, Haddon Township, how is their percentage higher? Who made that decision? How did we get that?
It's because their budget is higher, a higher percentage.
Percentage
in
is
re-
a percentage.
I tell you what, you let me finish it, okay?
No,
My answer,
percentage is a
no,
percentage.
you can keep talking over me. You asked the
You're talking
question.
over me.
No, you asked the question, I started to answer, okay? You have to have the school budget be higher as a percentage, in relationship to the municipal budget and the county budget. There is nothing the county or the municipality can do to increase that number, because, the school number, because they're at their cap too, okay? And the way, if anyone wants to raise that 19.5 has to go up, okay? That's the only way. You don't, you don't take money, take $2 million out of the municipal budget. Put it to 10 million too, okay? And we'll just decide which firemen get laid off, which cops get laid off, how trash changes. Like, you can't take from the other budgets without affecting what they do. Okay, that's all. It's not, and I'm really not trying to argue with you. I'm just telling you, I already expressed that ratio between those numbers. That is a meaningless number, okay? A meaningless number. What matters is, does each of the entities have the money they need to properly provide their service? And if one doesn't, Do we? Yeah, we do. We are. Well, we're not doing everything we'd like to do.
Because you have a higher percentage of tax.
No, okay, yeah, that's why, that's why. No, that's not how it works, but that's okay. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so, a couple.
Wayne, just name and address,
Wayne
please.
Rossi, 114 East Palmer. So a couple things coming out of this whole process. The first is, have you guys actually reached out and gotten a meeting with either the board or the administration of the schools? Because it seems like that kind of thing should be going on.
It should. I called the superintendent the day before this last election. He called me back. I spoke with him and conveyed what I left in my message was that we were ready to, no matter the outcome of September 17, we were ready to start working on Wednesday. I also called the school board president and left that exact same message. I have not heard back.
You guys saw that? Okay.
I have not heard anything back.
We'll talk about that with the school board too. Cause I do think it needs to be, everybody needs to get together.
Everybody,
Second-
not just the
Absolutely agree.
people in the freighter rooms, people,
Yeah.
people in town, everyone should.
Right.
Yeah.
So the second thing is, I know, I know that you've said that you have money and, for rec. And I'd like to know more about where that's going to go, particularly, one of the things that we would have gotten out of the referendum would have been that Sharp would have been a youth community center. And, I know that there are programs like Girl Scouts and Odyssey of the Mind that are looking for space in Collingswood and cannot get space in Collingswood at affordable rates. And I think that there's need for programming that's not at the schools or the library for youth in town.
So, yeah, we agree. We want to have discussion. We understand that the school district has extended their lease on Good Shepherd School for a year, okay? We want to discuss with them, one of the things we want to discuss with them is utilizing the gymnasium, whatever there, for things like Odyssey of the Mind, because we're losing the space that we had gotten for them before over at the county parks. They're gonna actually put offices in at that building over near Parkview, over on Newton, okay? So yeah, we wanna talk to them about that, about setting that up. We had intended, I know we've been through this before, but we had thought we were in a joint plan to look at fields, rec, and that's what part of this pilot was to be dedicated for. Not that, 60, 70 grand right now is gonna buy anything, but you can borrow against it, we get that every year, so we can buy something. We kinda haven't moved much on all that because things went a different direction in March, April, May, where there was another plan to do fields, not what we thought we were all working on. So, like I said, the day before this election, called, asked to sit down and talk to try to go over and get this, try to get us kind of, rowing in the same direction a little bit. Okay?
The last thing I'd ask, so I know that you've made it clear that from what you have said, that pilot money is netted out essentially from the school tax levy. In other words, that if you took all the pilot money and gave it to the school right now, that it would essentially clear out that much that other taxpayers are paying. Is that accurate?
Go back to that page.
Right. So
See,
right
that's the
now
board,
it's-
that's the board's page.
Right.
See that
but-
there? Okay.
So, but what you're saying, what happens right now,
Yeah.
I just wanna make sure I understand.
It's a net, it's a net.
It's a net.
Yes.
But like, if there was, all the pilot money went to the schools, say, and just, like, it's like $2 million or something, right? Is the
If-
amount that pilots bring in. Would that lower everyone else's taxes enough that, referendum for increasing taxes wouldn't be felt as much?
No, because it would leave a $2 million shortfall in the municipal budget. okay? Listen, it's all the same pot, right? It's all the same pot. So if you're taking it, we are in a process of weaning that, when, like Rob said, the pilot money ends in just a few years, okay? Parkview's all gone, we're not gonna keep discussing this anymore, it's all gonna go away, okay? But we're weaning off of that so that there's not a severe drop. Like it's being used for capital projects, for things. If we were ever, like I said, the borough municipal government can go out the referendum and get $2 million extra, okay? Everybody's taxes go up, right? $2 million. We can take that money and transfer it to the schools. I would sit down and wanna have real hard discussions about how we do that. Cause like we did when we had the Parkview profit, we would try to maximize state aid and do it in a way that does not affect them. What the fields and everything offered us was, we would build a field. Because it was gonna be a joint community. The plan was it was gonna be like, if there's gonna be a turf field, which hopefully there's a turf field that doesn't kill everybody, but if there's gonna be some kind of field where we could have more use of it, so that travel soccer could play here, and the football team could play there, and all, like, we could do that, then the borough would invest that money out of the pilots, right? We would spend that, save the schools the money, we'd be building all that stuff on their land, okay? And do it cooperatively. That was the idea. And we wanna see if we're back to that idea, okay? But we gotta have discussion about it.
One more time.
Go ahead.
Respectfully, you didn't answer my question about who actually determines that percentage. I just want to throw that out there.
Well, no, let me answer that, okay? No person or entity decides what the ratio is of the tax levy. The ratio is made up by, go to the next page for me, Cass? That ratio, which is why I say it's not a relevant number. That ratio is made up by determining what the county tax budget is, the school tax budget is, and the borough tax budget is. No person decide. We don't decide that. No person does.
When there's competing budgets, who gets it?
There's no such, what's a competing budget? There's no such thing.
We're saying that there's a $5 million gap between what the state does. Maybe that's unrealistic, right? So the school's underfunded, so we're asking that to go up. You're saying the borough can't go down, right? Is that
Well, no, if the school needs money, then the school, I presume, will look for ways to get that money.
Okay, I agree to disagree. And
It really is though.
No, there's
It
really
is
nothing
like,
to disagree.
Think about it, there's 9 school board
What's the answer?
representatives.
What's the answer?
No, just give me a second. There's 9 school board representatives, like, we should thank them. They have thankless jobs, so we should thank them. We can agree with what they do, we can disagree, we can, that's a spectrum of how we feel about things. But every year they pass a budget that we have nothing to do with, other than they give us a number, and our job is to collect that money. And so we do, and they say, this is what we want.
I understand, and I'm not trying to.
So it's not a competition.
I'm just simply trying to ask you, I'm not saying you're taking money that should go somewhere else. I'm simply asking other communities do it differently. How do we get there?
Other communities do it no differently.
They don't.
The only difference is, and you can make that ratio work however you want by changing the numbers. If the municipal tax budget, municipal levy is $6 million, right? When we do the percentages of what percentage 19 is of a number that's now 35 total, it's gonna be a greater percentage. Okay? It doesn't get the schools another nickel. I'm saying I understand the concern, but focusing on that ratio does not necessarily get the schools a nickel. You have to increase the 19.5 number to get them more money. That's it.
I think that's what he's asking, and in all honesty, I feel like it was a bit of a mischaracterization to assume that Bridget and I brought this up to insinuate that you would reduce the municipality budget so much so that people would lose their jobs. It's obviously not what we're saying. What we are saying is there does need to be small incremental steps along the way to fix the gap, because the truth is we are the only ones in this area of similar sized school districts of this gap. It's by millions. It truly is.
incremental increases in what?
Potentially a reduction in how much of the local tax levy is kept for the municipality versus the district. I'm sorry.
So that,
No,
that
I'm
all that
sorry,
means,
I
no,
understand.
okay, well, hold on, no.
It's
So
very
what that,
difficult to get my
what,
statement out.
no, but what that means, what
Sure.
that means is reducing the municipal budget, right?
Not
And
by
so
$2
it-
million though, which is what was characterized earlier, and I feel like that's.
What's that?
You had indicated that we were saying, right now, reducing by $2 million. No, that's not what we were.
Well, what I said was, and I think it's what was in your email, that you said we need to find a way to get $2 million additional money into the school district, right? I'm not misstating that, am I?
I'm saying that I said that the gap between what the New Jersey state average, based on the money that we collect in another town, that would be $2 million more. Based on that ratio that you don't wanna say is a real number, which is fine.
Yes.
So, what I'm saying is that as a taxpayer, I want more of my money to go to the schools and less to other things, so that the schools have money to pay teachers. That's what I
agree.
want,
So-
and what I am trying
Okay.
to find a way in the
That's
law
a clear thing, I understand.
to figure out.
And
That
that
is
can
our,
be done,
that is our
and that
goal.
can be done. And the way that is done is, say, instead of a 2% cap next year, they go out and say, we're gonna do 4, okay? And we're gonna increase that budget. We're gonna increase that. There's no mechanism for this body or anybody to say, okay, out of that right there, we're gonna say this money is shifting over here. Okay? It's like, and listen, I use it as example, the request about the 2 mil. It is, I don't think you can ever do it all at once, but it's something to look at, to have a 5-year plan, a 10-year plan, to go bumping it up a little bit. Some towns, right, are going back, we're being told,
Westfield.
going back to the old method, going back to April elections, have the budget put up for election every year, so that they don't have to be bound by the cap, okay? Some towns are doing that, like, we're not alone. That's not, like, not a bad idea, okay? It's, you know, it's not a bad idea, but yeah, we're happy to talk and figure out and help with it. Takes 2 to tango. We're ready, happy, always have wanted to. Yeah, okay, Rosemary, go ahead, name and address for the record.
Can I talk about something other than?
You can talk about whatever you want, that's what the time is. Just
You
give
gotta
me
tell
name
us
and
your
address.
name.
Rosemary Reese, I live in Parkview, the place that's always, said it's terrible, but it's much better now.
Oh, good.
I'm in the C building, and they renovated, now they're charging us utilities. I learned from one of the people a secret, that maybe you know this, the 2-bedroom apartments are linked by their water and electric. They can never go condo as a result.
That I don't know.
It's,
I know it's not separately metered.
no.
Yeah.
So we have no meters, we have no idea
Right.
how it's being done.
Right.
We're now being charged, I'm being charged at 2-bedroom, $300 almost a month for sewer, for water, for you name it, and they keep adding it. I just
Rural
retired at the end of
utilities, okay.
August. Now I have another $300 to pay on my rent. 66 on the rent and 100 and something on almost.
Sorry.
I know. I'm not moving. I just wondered, they say they take the whole bill and divvy it up. I live next door to 2 guys, another 2 apartment, 2 guys in 1 apartment. They must have higher rent than me, or not higher rent, higher utilities than me. But I have to share with them, I think. Who do we talk to? I'm just trying to figure out.
Our understanding is, because we've gotten calls from residents, and I'm speaking very broadly, is that it is master metered, like you said, that's the term they use to meter a whole building. And because they can't meter individual units, it's done by square footage. So somebody with a 2-bedroom that's, 2,000 square feet, all those 2 bedrooms that are 1,000 square feet are gonna pay X. That's the only way. And then, a larger unit might pay more utilities, smaller unit. So yeah, somebody with 1,000 square foot unit may use more or less than their neighbor, but you're all gonna get the same utility bills, my understanding.
So do I need to find somebody to live with them, so I can just be equally using the water? I just didn't know who to talk to, I guess.
Management.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you need us to try to get information from them, we can try to do that for you.
I appreciate that, because they have a separate utility company called Yes.
Yeah.
In Lakewood.
Yeah.
That has been sending us bills, and sometimes it says the whole amount, sometimes it says just the sewer, the water. It's very confusing, the whole community, I'm here on behalf of the community basically, because we're totally like, how do we figure this in?
You have my email, we've gone through this with management when they started it, and I
what we're doing, because you have no idea what you get on the bill.
Got it.
Yeah.
So, yes, it's called Guess.
Yes,
And then they're doing
I think
water
it's a building
and,
company.
yeah, I was gonna say, because if they're
All
doing
together.
water and electricity. Oh my God. Oh, okay, so they're, okay, so they're the billers, they're not the supplier. Gotcha, okay.
It keeps going up, but they don't tell us about it, they put it in our lease. And then I said, I didn't sign up for that, I said, yeah, you did. It says electric and sewer, I missed the electric.
Yeah. I don't wanna take.
Okay, well, Cassandra will be in touch with, you write to Cassandra, we'll be in touch with you, we'll check with management, see what we can get from them.
I probably can't do anything, but I would like to know how they figure it.
Yeah.
Because I have a feeling the guys next door to me are paying the same as I am, and I don't use as much.
They probably are, if they have the same square
Yeah,
footage.
I think
That's
they
just how
say
it
they
works.
don't do that, but who knows, how do I know? Thank you, good luck with the schools.
Thank you. Thanks, Rosemary. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Yep, Kate?
Yeah,
Name and address, please, just for the record.
yeah, sure, Kate Delaney, 126 East Palmer Avenue. Yeah, this is separate from the school funding stuff, though I appreciate all the work that Steve and Bridget put into all of that, and I very much agree that we need to fully fund our schools. But kind of connected to this issue of our tax dollars reflecting our values and potentially picking up some savings. I know in the next couple of months, we, local government, will either be going out to bid or entering into professional contract agreements. And I think this year, more than ever, we have an opportunity to contract with companies that are going to be leading in ethics. A lot of us spend our money guided by voting our values and with our dollar. So I think in 2025, it is imperative that we not contract with Connor Strong and Bucklew, Parker McKay, and Brown and Connery. The principals of those three firms are under investigation for 13 counts of corruption, and we should not be putting our tax dollars there. We've been saying our tax dollars, us. So I don't want any of my tax dollars going in those directions. Whatever happens to George and Friends will be determined after January when we'll be awarding those contracts. So I would love to hear you speak to that issue of how you will address those three particular contracts. Again, of Connor Strong and Bucklew, Parker McKay, and Brown and Connery. There are plenty of attorneys and insurance companies, so what other options will you look to this year?
Yeah, I'll just say, we don't do it every year. I don't think it's a good way. These are professional services, I should just point out, right? In most, in most purchasing type things, there's a, competitive, lowest responsible bidder. Professional services don't work like that, right? Because professional services, it's a little different. We go out to bid every 3-4 years or something like that, and we're probably due to do that again. I think, you say, Brown Connery. I say Joe Nardi. This guy is a fantastic attorney who has done such great work for us. And to me, the value is Joe Nardi. And Joe Nardi does great work for us. And if he didn't, he wouldn't be here. He'll be okay. He understands the business. He knows that these things happen sometimes, and maybe that'll happen and maybe it won't. We don't want anyone to get soft and lazy in their jobs and to not do it. We went out for insurance last time. We were certainly open to using someone else. Connor Strong came with the best rates. There's a reason why people shop at, Target, and sometimes in Amazon and stuff like that. We don't like everything they do sometimes, but sometimes if the business model's strong, we'll see. Maybe they will be and maybe they won't. If there are people that you feel that should, when we put out for this stuff, that should put their names in, get them in front of us. We want to know who else is out there. We want people to be competitive. We want folks to earn our resources. But the other side of it is we also need to know that just not anyone with the lowest number, it brings value to the municipality. So we want to make sure that they're good and we check their standards and make sure they do it. All the rates for all of our professional services are within whatever everyone else is paying. It's not like anyone here is getting X amount more than other areas. So
I'll just add this, none of the individuals, we don't deal directly with any of the individuals that are involved. As I understand it, they can kind of step back from their companies. None of the allegations involve any of the work with municipalities, involve any of the insurance work, the legal work that we're involved with at all. And when we get to that point where we're gonna do award of contracts, we'll review them all and we'll make those decisions.
So, thank you.
Okay, yes, sir.
Joe Bouvier, 211 St. James Avenue, Merchantville. I'd like to follow up on Ms. Delaney's comments. The charges against these individuals, who are the principals of these firms, include racketeering conspiracy, including influencing government contracts, conspiracy to commit theft by extortion and criminal coercion, and financial facilitation of criminal activity. These are pretty serious charges dealing with government corruption and influencing government contracts. And I'd like to give an example. In 2021, the comptroller of the state of New Jersey conducted an audit of Pennsauken's finances and found that Pennsauken overpaid its insurance contract services by $1.6 million out of a $40 million municipal budget by using Connor Strong and Buckaloo's recommended insurance provider rather than using the state insurance fund. So my question is, what are you going to do to make sure that these services that are being given by these firms that are charged with corruption are really in the best interest of the taxpayers? Because this is an easy way for the town to be overcharging its citizens through its taxes because of corruption in government. So you better be careful on how you do your contracts.
You're right. Sure. You're absolutely right. And let me just, can I ask you the Pennsauken, that was about medical insurance?
It was.
Okay.
Employee coverage.
Employee health coverage, exactly. And the charge was that I'm vaguely familiar with it, was that the town could have saved money by going into the state health benefits plan instead of going with the health insurance fund, the self-insurance pool, okay? And I touched on that earlier tonight, okay? And I have no knowledge whatsoever about any of the Pennsauken finances, about any of that. But one reason why we might decide to pay more is because the coverage for our employees is better, okay? Or is the same. So just because the state comes in and says, hey, you could have saved money, we could save money. We could save money by getting less coverage and paying less, number one. Number two, you said those firms were charged with fraud. That's not correct. That is not correct.
The principals of the firms.
No, when you talked about it, you talked about the firms engaged in corruption.
No,
Okay?
I said
You got it all taped, so you can go back and look at it all, okay?
The principals
But
of
it
those
is
firms.
the principals of the firms. And there are allegations against them, absolutely, they're serious, aware of them. Where that goes, we'll see. Frankly, as a lawyer, and I think there's a lot of people have this opinion, I'm not so sure there's meat on the bone there, okay? That there's any crime that's been committed. But that's for the courts to decide, that's for the courts to figure out. But in the meantime, while there's allegations against individuals that we don't deal with, that do not involve anything that we're doing or that Collingswood has done, the allegation is that development in Camden was thwarted at their direction. There's nothing like that that's happened here. Haven't talked to any one of those people about any kind of development in Collingswood, I would say ever, okay? So I'm not worried that those types of things are happening here. We will, when we get to the point where we're awarding those contracts, we'll take a look at it all and see where things stand. Things might change.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would
Thanks.
just jump in and say it was a non sequitur to say that it's involved in Collingswood development. That's not the point. The point is it's our tax dollars. We're talking about our tax dollars and saying our tax dollars should not be going to those firms.
I hear you, because an individual at the firm has been charged with something. I understand. Thank you. Understand. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Anyone else?
Can I?
Sure.
Can
Just
I
give your
go
name
back-
and address.
Oh, I'm sorry, Lucille DeYoung, I live at 550 Grand Avenue, right over the park. I would like to go back to some of the discussion about the school and the school budget and all that, and it's nothing to do with the arguments for or against. I know as a longtime resident here, there was a point in time, and the exact year I don't remember, it might have been 2018, 2017, the school board came to the community and said, look, we need money to, and this is, a one-shot deal, but we will be paying forever, to fund the mental health needs of our middle school and our high school students. And everybody said, without a doubt, yes, let's do this. And we funded it then, it was a referendum, and we're still funding it. So to say that we can't do a referendum through the school budget, through the school board, I think that's where we need to go because they know how and what they need the dollars for.
We didn't say that.
Pardon me?
We did not say that. We know they can.
Okay, well, I'm saying though that what, my experience here is when the school board does that, the community says yes. When there's a real need there, we say yes. We don't want to, our students to go without.
While I have loved this conversation, I'm happy to engage in it all the time. I hope you have this discussion and conversation like we're doing right now with school officials.
Yes.
Okay? And we're happy to be a part of it. Happy to be a part of that anytime. Trying to do that. Anything else? Anybody else?
Thank you for.
Some Dodger fans still here? Okay.
Thanks for
We're adjourned.
Oh, yeah, no, it's.
Yeah, no, I literally said so.
I'm sorry for making.
Keeping it on.
Yeah, right, right.
Yeah, thank you.